Anyone else want to comment? If not, we'll take the next question right down here.
My name is Joel Mandelman. I'm an attorney who filed one of the amicus briefs in the...
We will take you back live to the House. Final passage coming up on repealing the 2010 health care law.
Will report the title.
H.R. 6079, a bill to repeal the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and health care-related provisions in the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010.
The chair will receive a message.
Madam Speaker, message from the President of the United States.
Madam Speaker,
Mr. Secretary.
I am directed by the President of the United States to deliver to the House of Representatives a message in writing.
Thank you. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Madam Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Gentleman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Andrews of New Jersey moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 6079, to the Committees on Energy and Commerce, Ways and Means, and Education and the Workforce, with instructions to report the same to the House forthwith with the following amendment. Add at the end the following new section, Section 5. Members of the House of Representatives who vote to repeal health care for their constituents must forfeit their own taxpayer-subsidized health benefits. A. Forfeiture of FEHBP benefits by any member voting in favor of health care repeal. A member of the House of Representatives who votes in favor of passage of this act, including the repeal of the patient benefit protection provisions described in subsection B, shall become ineligible to participate as such a member in the federally funded Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, FEHBP, under Chapter 89 of Title V, United States Code, effective at the beginning of the first month after the date of the enactment of this act. B. Patient benefit protection provisions. For purposes of subsection A, the patient benefit protection provisions described in this subsection include any provision of or amendment made by the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act or the Health Care and Education and Reconciliation Act of 2010 that provides for or protects patient benefits, including the following. 1. Prohibition of pre-existing condition exclusions. Section 2704 of the Public Health Service Act relating to the prohibition of pre-existing condition exclusions or other discrimination based on health status. 2. Fair health insurance premiums. Section 2701 of the Public Health Service Act relating to fair health insurance premiums and prohibiting gender-based discriminatory premium rates. 3. Coverage of adult children until age 26. Section 2714 of the Public Health Service Act relating to the extension of dependent coverage for adult children until age 26. 4. Closure of Medicare Part D donut hole. Section 1816D-14A of the Social Security Act relating to the Medicare Part D coverage gap discount program. 5. No lifetime or annual limits. Section 2711 of the Public Health Service Act relating to no lifetime or annual limits. 6. Preventative health services coverage without cost sharing. A. Section 2713 of the Public Health Service Act relating to the coverage of preventative health services without cost sharing. B. The amendments made by Sections 4103 and 4104 of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, as amended by Section 10406 of such Act, relating to an annual Medicare wellness visit and Medicare payment for preventative services without cost sharing, including colorectal cancer screening.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 5 minutes in support of his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, if my final amendment passes, we will proceed immediately to final passage of this bill. It doesn't delay or defer consideration anyway. My amendment raises the following question. Should members of Congress live by the same laws we write for everyone else? I say we should. The last 2 days have been filled with sincere, focused, and passionate debate about the future of the Affordable Care Act. Members whom I respect and admire have taken strong positions saying we should repeal the law. Members whom I respect and admire have taken strong positions saying we should uphold and enforce the law, as I believe strongly. But whether you believe in the repeal of the law or the upholding of the law, you ought to believe in the basic principle that when we write a law around here, we should live by that law the same way everybody else does. So my final amendment says that supporters of repeal should live by the same consequences that everyone else will live by if they succeed in repealing the law. You see, because if my amendment does not pass and the bill passes, members of Congress will be protected if an insurance company tries to discriminate against us because we've had breast cancer or asthma or diabetes, but our constituents will not enjoy that protection. If my amendment does not pass, but the underlying repeal bill does pass, members of Congress cannot be forced to pay higher premiums because they're female or because they're a certain age. But our constituents will not enjoy that protection. If the final bill passes without my amendment passing, we will be able to take our sons and daughters who are less than 26 years of age and keep them on our own policies, but the people who pay our salaries, our constituents, will not have that protection. If the underlying repeal bill passes without the amendment that I'm offering, then we would, as members of Congress, get help paying high prescription drug bills under Medicare, but our constituents under Medicare would not enjoy that same benefit. If my amendment does not pass and the underlying repeal bill passes, if, God forbid, a member of our families is struck with a horrible disease or malignancy and runs up millions of dollars of bills, the insurance company will not be allowed to say, sorry, we're going to stop paying your health care bills because you've run up against a lifetime or annual policy limit. But members of Congress will have that protection. And so, you see, I think this comes down to a basic point. If we write a law, we should live by it. This is something that I think most members, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrats, say when we go home to our district. We frankly have all encountered constituents who wonder why we don't pay into Social Security. The truth is we all do. We all do. Just the way our constituents do. We run into constituents who say that they don't understand why our sons and daughters can pay off their student loans or get them forgiven for free when their kids can't. That's false. Our sons and daughters live under exactly the same student loan rules everybody else does. We have people ask us, you know, how come we don't follow the tax laws everybody else does? We most certainly do. Republican, Democrat, liberal, and conservative live by exactly the same laws that we write. I don't think we should make an exception to that policy here. And if you don't vote for this final underlying amendment, and I think we all should, if you don't vote for this final underlying amendment, understand what happens. Members of Congress are protected against pre-existing conditions, but our constituents aren't. Members of Congress are permitted to have our sons and daughters on our policies till they're 26, but our constituents can't. Members of Congress can't be charged more for premiums because of their age or their gender, but our constituents can. Members of Congress under Medicare would get certain rights and privileges in their prescription drugs, but our seniors and constituents can't. I think whether we agree or disagree with the Affordable Care Act, we all would agree with this principle. When Congress writes a law, we should all live by it. So I would respectfully say to my friends, both Republican and Democrat, if you believe in the law you're going to vote for today, then vote to live under it as well. Vote yes on this motion to recommit.
Gentleman's time has expired. Does the gentleman from Virginia rise in opposition?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I do.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I would say to the gentleman, my friend from New Jersey, you know, we on this side of the aisle care about the health care of the American people. That's why we're here. That's why I brought this bill forward along with and on behalf of my colleagues. It is not about members of Congress. It is not about trying to say that you get health care, we don't get health care. This is a dire situation for a lot and millions of Americans. There are so many things going on right now, critical needs out there across this country where people are out of work, people don't have their health care, people are hurting. And for us to sit here and discuss a motion to recommit like this, I just don't think, Madam Speaker, it is what the American people would like us to be doing. It is about the Americans' health care. Most Americans do have health care. Most Americans like the health care they have. It's just too expensive. And more Americans are going to go without health care because of this law. And as the President said when he first started this discussion in 2009, Americans that have health care and like it should be able to keep it. Well, that is clearly a promise that's been broken. And we are trying to end the era of broken promises. We are trying to end the era of Washington-controlled health care. We believe, as do most of the American people, that it's patient-centered care is our goal. That's where we need to start. We start along the path towards that goal by repealing Obamacare. Obamacare has added cost upon cost. And in fact, the average American in terms of the premiums that they pay, the average family has already paid a premium increase of approximately $1,200 since the passage of Obamacare. And in fact, the CBO estimates that insurance premiums for individuals buying private health coverage on their own will increase by $2,100 in 2016 compared to what the premiums would have been if the law had not passed. This is why when study after study is showing that people are not able to keep the health care they like, it's because of the cost. People are unable to afford it. The employers are unable to afford it. We are after patient-centered care. We are after affordable care. And we are trying to improve and enlarge the access to care. Obamacare fails on all those fronts. So, Madam Speaker, it is not a game to be played that is evident in this motion to recommit. It is about the American people and not health care. And with that, Madam Speaker, I urge my colleagues to vote against the motion to recommit and urge them instead to vote for the passage of repeal of Obamacare. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields back without objection. The previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. Question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, on that I ask for the yeas and nays.
Gentleman asks for the yeas and nays. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 8 and Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to recommit will be followed by 5-minute votes on passage of the bill, if ordered, and adoption of House Resolution 726. This is a 15-minute vote.
The House began debate yesterday. This would be the second attempt in the 112th Congress on a vote to completely repeal the 2010 Affordable Care Act, the health care law. This is a 15-minute vote on the Democratic motion to recommit. This is an effort to seek to add to an amendment to the bill which would call on members of Congress to give up their health plan, their health plan benefits that come as being members of Congress. This is a 15-minute vote, and we expect it to go a bit longer than that. Final passage will be next. Ahead, we're going to open up our phone lines in just a bit to get your thoughts on the debate so far. It's lasted 2 days on this repeal effort by Republicans. The numbers, 202-624-1111 if you're a Democrat, Republicans 202-624-1115, Independents and others 202-624-0760. It'll be a few minutes before we get to your calls, and when we do, we also want to remind you, too, that we are opening up our Twitter site. We have been using the hashtag pound, the hashtag ACA vote, and if you want to tweet this afternoon, we'll read some of those as well. But before we get to your phone calls, we did want to bring you some of the flavor of the debate that's happened over the last couple of days, beginning with Texas Democrat Al Green on the floor earlier this morning reading the so-called replacement bill. Here's what he had to say.
Mr. Speaker, this message is only for persons who may get sick. If you will never get sick, this message is not for you. N-O-T, not for you. Only for those who will get sick. Mr. Speaker, I hold in my left hand a copy of the Affordable Care Act. I hold in my right hand the replacement bill that my colleagues across the aisle have been talking about. This bill has passed the Congress of the United States of America. It is more than 2,000 pages. It was condemned for being too long, which may explain the size of this bill. This bill has within it preventive care. This bill has within it a cap on administrative costs. You must spend 80 to 85% of the money that insurance companies collect on health care. This bill protects persons who are under 26 years of age, as they can stay on their parents' insurance. This bill covers persons with pre-existing conditions. I had to read this bill. My constituents insisted that I read this bill before voting on it. And my constituents want me to read this bill. This is the replacement bill, and they want me to be sure that I understand the replacement bill before I vote to repeal. So what I'd like to do now, for all within the sound of my voice and who are viewing this, I want to read the replacement bill. I shall read the replacement bill. Let me just read half of it first. I shall now read one half of the replacement bill. Now I shall read the other half of the replacement bill. Now some of you will say, Al, you read too fast. I didn't pick up all of that. So for those who listen slowly, or those who may have missed it, I shall now read the replacement bill in its entirety. That's the replacement bill. Here is the bill that we can read. I'm going to ask that I be allowed to place the replacement bill in the record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask that persons consider the empirical evidence as well as the invisible evidence. When you weigh the empirical evidence against the invisible evidence, you decide whether we should vote to repeal. Now, there may be some who contend, well, Al, really, I'd just like to go back to the way things were. Let's quickly go back to the way things were. Gladys Knight had a song styled The Way We Were. Here is the way we were in '09. In '09, when we were considering replacement, we were spending $2.5 trillion a year on health care. That's a big number. Hard to get your mind around it. That's $79,000 a second. It was, at that time, 17.6% of GDP. We were spending $100 billion a year on persons who were uninsured. It was projected that by 2018 we'd spend $4.4 trillion, which would have been 20.3% of GDP, which is $139,000 a second. In my state of Texas, we had 6 million people who were uninsured. In Harris County, where I have my congressional district, we had 1.1 million people who were uninsured. 20% of the state's children were uninsured. 50% of Americans were uninsured. 45,000 persons per year were dying because of a lack of insurance. That's one person every 12 minutes. And if you don't like that, call Harvard. I got the statistics from Harvard. The system was not sustainable. This is why we embarked upon producing this bill. So I beg that those who insisted that I read this bill before voting, please understand that before you vote, you ought to read this bill and compare the two. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
That's Texas Democrat Gene Green, actually from this morning's morning hour speeches. Over 5 hours plus of general debate on the effort to repeal the 2010 health care law. This is the motion to recommit. Democrats seeking to add an amendment which would call on members of Congress to give up their health plans as members of Congress. In just a minute, we're going to open up our phone lines and get your thoughts. The numbers have been on the screen. Democrats 202-624-1111, Republicans 202-624-1115, Independents 202-624-0760. Also checking Twitter. The handle, the hashtag rather, is ACA Vote. Hank the Count 234 tweets, why wouldn't GOP and Cantor not agree to giving up their own health care if their constituents can't have it? That from Hank on Twitter, and we'll read more in just a bit. Just a short while ago, as the debate was winding up, here's what House Speaker John Boehner had to say.
I am strong support of H.R. 6079, a legislation that would repeal the President's health care law. You know, when this bill passed, we were promised that health care law would lower costs and help create jobs. One congressional leader even suggested it would create 400,000 new jobs. Well, guess what? Didn't happen. This bill is making our economy worse, driving up the cost of health care, and making it harder for small businesses to hire new workers. You know, the American people were told that they'd come to like this bill once it was passed. Well, that didn't happen either. Most Americans not only oppose this law, but they fully support repealing it. The American people were told that taxes on the middle class wouldn't go up if this bill passed. Well, guess what? There are 21 tax increases in this health care law, and at least a dozen of them hit the middle class. Well, and let me just give you a glimpse of the damage that all these tax hikes will do to our economy. A tax on health insurance providers will end up costing up to 249,000 jobs, according to the National Federation of Independent Business. A tax on health care manufacturers will put as many as 47,000 jobs in jeopardy, according to one nonpartisan estimate. And then you've got the employer mandate, which will affect every job creator with 50 or more employees. Well, let's take White Castle Company in my home state. They say that the employer mandate would eat up most of their net income starting in 2014. And that's on account of just one provision in the law. And then there's the individual mandate that the Supreme Court has now ruled is a massive tax. And the Congressional Budget Office says that roughly 20 million Americans will either have to pay this tax or be forced to buy insurance that they wouldn't have purchased otherwise. You add it all up, the tax increases in this health care law will take at least $675 billion out of our pockets over the next 10 years. All this at a time when employers are just trying to get by. Listen, I think there's a better way, and that's why we're here today. Americans want a step-by-step approach that protects the access to care that they need from the doctor they choose at a lower cost. They certainly didn't ask for this government takeover of their health care system that's put us in this mess that we're in today. You know, at the beginning of this Congress, the House voted to repeal this health care law. It was our pledge to America, and we kept it. Unfortunately, our colleagues in the Senate refused to follow suit. And since then, we've made some bipartisan progress on repealing parts of this harmful health care law, including the 1099 paperwork mandate. But this law continues to make our economy worse, and there's even more resolve to see that it is fully repealed. Now, I think this is an opportunity to save our economy. And for those who still support repealing this harmful health care law, we're giving our colleagues in the Senate another chance to heed the will of the American people. And for those who did not support repeal the last time, it's a chance for our colleagues to reconsider. For all of us, it's an opportunity to do the right thing for our country. And I yield back.
Speaker Boehner in final debate on the repeal of health care. Again, this is the second time that Congress has attempted a full repeal of the 2010 law, the second time in the 112th Congress. Our phone lines are opening up. Democrats 202-624-1111, Republicans 202-624-1115, Independents 202-624-0760. Please make sure you mute your television when you call in. We're also using Twitter. The hashtag ACA vote. Abercrombie tweets that 31 votes later, and the political sideshow goes on. No wonder nothing else can get done in Congress. I'm ashamed of you all. Let's go to our phones. In Hallsville, Texas, on our Democrats line. John, welcome.
Hello. I got two quick points. Here in Texas, we got 2.4 million illegal immigrants, which were never addressed in the Affordable Health Care Act. I guess they're not going to get penalized or taxed if they don't purchase insurance, and we're going to have to pick up the cost. And the second part, those that are receiving Medicaid right now don't pay anything for that service. It's free. So I guess President Obama was talking about them, that they are the true freeloaders in this country. Thank you.
Republican line next, Placentia, California. It's Mike. Welcome.
Yes, I'm very actually confused on why this Democratic representative would bring up this particular recommit instruction at this point, saying that all of the government officials would have to live under the same medical program that all of us are being forced into. Why is it now they're saying this? Why didn't they implement that into the actual bill 2 years ago? Why didn't he champion that 2 years ago when they first introduced Obamacare? To me, this is all gamesmanship. That's all it is. And you know what? The American people should wake up and just see that, you know, on both sides at times they're playing games. Thank you.
Mike is referring to the vote that's going on now. This is the Democratic motion to recommit, and yes, indeed, the motion calls for the adoption of an amendment which would ask members of Congress, call on members of Congress to give up their health benefits as members of Congress. Memphis is next. William is an independent there.
I just have one brief comment. Shame on this Congress. They should all be so ashamed of themselves. I'm almost 70 years old. I've never seen such a dysfunctional group of people in my life. I am glad to say that I did not vote for our current representative, and until we get some people that have sense, I mean just common sense, to get into Congress, I probably won't vote.
Who's your current representative there, William?
I have two of them. The female, the female is a Republican, and I'm, of course, Cohen is the Democrat, and they're just really at odds with everything that I feel. Both of them are ridiculous, and both sides of the House are ridiculous. I just don't understand the whole function in Washington today. It just seems to have gone astray with all of the shenanigans that are going on. This thing that's going on right now is just a waste of time. There's so many things that need to be addressed by our Congress.
William in Memphis, thanks for the call. We're also checking Twitter. The hashtag is ACA vote. Terry in the Hills tweets, Obama tax is not affordable. It is socialized medicine and takeover of 1/6 of USA economy. Here's New York City on our Democrats line, Lolita. New York City, Democrats line, are you there? Okay, San Antonio, Texas. Kathy is a Republican there. Welcome.
Thank you. I am 73 years old, and I have never seen a country so divided in my life. I never voted for Obama, and I'm sure not going to vote for him this time. And we need to repeal this health care because if people like me, I'm going to lose what I pay for my insurance, and I do pay for my supplement insurance. I hope to God that this country can be changed and we can all work together and be like it used to be.
So,
Thank you.
Kathy, under the health care law, you would lose your coverage? Is that what you're saying?
I don't believe I would lose it. I pay a supplement. I don't have like I do pay for supplement. I pay almost $200 a month for my supplement insurance, and I know it's going to go up. My husband does the same thing.
To our independent line next, Loretta is there in Iowa. What's the name of your town, Sac City?
Yes, Sac City.
You're on the air.
I agree with all the previous callers that the Congress is a disgrace. Is this a waste of time? Absolutely. And I applaud Representative Andrews in including the representatives of our country as Americans. And Eric Cantor is disassociating himself with the average American. Is he above it? I'm not sure. The Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act is a step in the right direction. There's only going to be 1% of people that will be affected by any type of mandate or tax, or call it a shoe. It's irrelevant as to what it's called. We're paying now for people who are getting health care through the emergency room services because, you know, the health care can't be denied on an emergency basis. The House of Representatives should be ashamed of themselves addressing this for the 31st or the 32nd or the 33rd or however many times. It depends on who you listen to. It's a done deal, and it's being processed, and it was approved by the Supreme Court going through the taxation department, but we're not being taxed. We're being taxed now, and we're paying for people who are being provided with health care on an emergency basis.
Loretta, we appreciate you calling in. The Supreme Court case was discussed today in a conversation over at the Heritage Foundation, which we covered. It included Donald Verrilli, the Solicitor General, Michael Carbon, who argued on behalf of the National Federation of Business, and you'll see that program later in our schedule. It's also in our video library. Taking your calls on the repeal of health care, this attempt to repeal the health care law. Here's Pompano Beach, Florida, and Jeff's on our Democrats line.
Yeah, hello. I just want to say that for the Republicans to go ahead and vote on this for the 33rd time is ridiculous. They really should be passing the President's jobs plan and getting this country back to work. I mean, the Affordable Health Care Act is basically has Republicans' idea, like the mandate. That came from Republicans, from Newt Gingrich and the Heritage Foundation. And now that it's in law, they don't like that. They just do not like anything what the president does. I really think they should get back to jobs and get off of this. Thank you. Have a good day.
Brian in Los Angeles is on our Republican line. Brian, the question we've been asking on Facebook and elsewhere is, do you support or oppose the repeal of the health care law? Where do you fall on that?
I support the repeal.
Want to elaborate?
Yes. For one thing, I find this motion and most of the things the Democrats have done is specious, and especially this bill they're voting on, or the motion to recommit, is being misreported. I listened carefully to the representative from New York, and he said that the congressmen should give up their health care only if they vote to repeal. This doesn't apply to all of the congressmen, only to the ones who vote to repeal. That's absolutely fantastic. In other words, the congressman being beaten for voting to repeal.
Brian, thanks for pointing that out. We appreciate that. This is the motion to recommit vote. We're taking your calls. We're also keeping an eye on our Facebook page with the poll up that says, do you support or oppose the repeal of the health care law? So far, 654 Facebook users voting in support of repeal, 620 voting against. Next up is Norton, New Jersey, and Robert on our Democrats line. All right, Robert not there. Let's go to Redlands, California. Robert on a Republican line.
Hi, I just want to make a point of clarification for the congressman that introduced the motion to recommit. He stated that they pay the same taxes that everybody else does, which was, if he's going to stand up there and lie about that, then I know they're lying about the Affordable Health Care Act. The simple fact is when they passed alternative minimum tax, they exempted Congress and Senate from paying alternative minimum tax. I pay that. They don't. That's a tax that they don't pay. So I was just calling for clarification on that.
We appreciate that. We will go back to our Democrats line this time. Robert, you're there in Norton, New Jersey. Okay, Columbus, Ohio. Tim is an independent. Hello, Tim in Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually a college student right now in Ohio, and I was just a lot of times we talk about bipartisanship in both parties, and I'm just looking at the votes here, and it's really looking kind of ridiculous right now. I mean, Democrats only 6 nays, Republicans 1 yay. I mean, it's really looking like it's another political show, if you know what I'm talking about. And I mean, Federalist 10, written by James Madison, says that we should really be watching out for factions. And to me, Republican and Democratic parties have turned into some of the biggest factions of all time.
Tim, where do you go to school?
Notre Dame College up in Cleveland.
Do you have health insurance? Or are you covered under your parents' plan?
I'm covered under my parents' plan, actually. So I mean, I don't really know much about the money side of it. I'll put it that way.
The issue of bipartisanship, Tim talked about there. Mitt Romney, the Republican presidential candidate, was speaking today before the NAACP annual meeting in Houston, and he pledged there to repeal Obamacare. And he was booed by that audience there because of that statement. We're going to show you those comments later in our program on the C-SPAN network. So let's get one more call in here to Mississippi on our Democrats line. It's Sherry. Hi.
That's me.
Sherry, you're on the air. Go ahead with your comments.
Yes, I oppose the repeal because I know too many people who are benefiting now from the new health care law. And I live in an extreme rural area where a lot of people seek health care through the emergency room. And we pay for that. And we need this law to cover those people and to give people an opportunity to get coverage. And I oppose them, and they need to move on. This has been decided, and they're wasting our time, and we need jobs and better education, and they're wasting our time.
Sherry,
and that's what I want to say.
Thank you. From Tiplersville, Mississippi, thanks for all the calls. And the conversation does continue online, facebook.com/cspan. The poll is up. We're taking comments. Also, the Twitter hashtag ACAVote. A couple of thoughts there from Donna. She says, really get on with the jobs bill. This is a joke. Safari Woman writes, with 21 new taxes in Obamacare, it should be called the Non-Affordable Health Care Act. Again, this is the Democratic motion to recommit. One last chance to change the bill before final passage, and that vote is coming up next.
On this vote, the yeas are 180, the nays are 248. The motion is not adopted. The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it.
I ask for a roll call vote.
A roll call vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. Sufficient number having risen, a roll call vote is ordered. Member will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
Two weeks ago, in one of their last decisions of the term, the Supreme Court upheld the majority of the 2010 health care law passed by Congress. Today, the second attempt in the 112th Congress to repeal that law. This is a 5-minute vote on final passage.
On this vote, the yeas are 244, the nays are 185. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The unfinished business is the vote. This is the gentleman from Florida rise.
Madam Speaker, I ask for unanimous.
Gentleman will suspend. House will be in order. House will be in order. House will be in order, please. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Madam Speaker, ask unanimous consent to address the House out of order for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, I've been asked to report the results of a competition that took place on Monday at the Columbia Country Club. The competition is called the Congressional Challenge Cup. It's an event where a team of golfers from the Democratic side of the House play a team of golfers from the Republican side of the House. And I wanted to report to the House that this year's winner of the Congressional Cup is the Republican team. So, just very briefly, I want to thank my teammates very quickly, Trey Gowdy, Mick Mulvaney, Jeff Duncan, Duncan Hunter, Tom Rooney, Reed Ribble, and Steve Sutherland. I want to thank them for their dedication, their hard work, and most of all, for just showing up. And the big winner, Madam Speaker, is an organization called the First Tee, because over the last 11 years we've had this competition, over $1.5 million has been raised for the First Tee. That's an organization that works with young people to try to touch their lives through educational programs that deal with character and honesty, integrity. They work in all 50 states. They've touched the lives of 4.5 million people over the years, and they do a lot of work with the inner city and the less fortunate. So it was a great day. I want to thank everybody for their involvement, and certainly want to yield of time to my Democratic counterpart, the captain of the Democratic team, Mr. Yarmouth.
Well, I thank my good friend from Florida and want to congratulate the Republicans on their victory. All good things must come to an end, and our 5-year winning streak was broken through largely superior play, although I do question some of the strategy that was invoked by the Republican team, notably Mr. Mulvaney and Gowdy wearing matching plaid Bermuda shorts, which distracted all of my team members. But seriously, this is a great event, and it was conducted very much in accordance with the 9 core values that the First Tee espouses, particularly sportsmanship, honesty, integrity, and courtesy. And I think all of us enjoyed the day, left the event much closer than when we started. It was a great spirit of collegiality as well as competition. And once again, I want to thank all of my fellow team members on the Democratic side, congratulate the Republicans, and once again, congratulate and thank the First Tee for all they do to promote high qualities among our youth in America. With that, I yield back.
Madam Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back without objection. Without objection, 5-minute voting will continue. The unfinished business is a vote on adoption of House Resolution 726, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
Under number 146. House Resolution 726, resolution providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 4402 to require the Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of Agriculture to more efficiently develop domestic sources of the minerals and mineral materials of strategic and critical importance to United States economic and national security and manufacturing competitiveness.
Questions on adoption of the resolution. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
For the second time in the 112th Congress, the House has voted to completely repeal the 2010 health care law. The final vote was 244 to 185. 5 Democrats voted in favor of repeal. Russell Berman of The Hill tweeted that Democrat Jim Matheson joins the Republicans to back the repeal of health care. He is from Utah. The other Democratic repealers, he tweets, are Boren, Kissel, McIntyre, and Ross, up from 3 last year. Last vote this afternoon in the House is on the rule for a bill which will be debated tomorrow. This is the Domestic Mineral Production Bill. It would provide for an hour of general debate, 7 amendments to be considered, but all of that is expected tomorrow.
On this vote, the yeas are 245 and the nays are 180. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extreme